25 years on, Florida's first serial killer GJ Schaefer returns with a new expanded volume of illustrated killer fiction, featuring the stories used to convict him of double murder in 1973.
Rabid reader, welcome back for more lust, blood and murder in 1991. Like a drooling criminal fiend returning to the scene of his depredations, or a dog to his own vomit, you've come back to savor another depraved thrill. You know I won't disappoint you. Killer fiction wasn't a disappointment, was it? You won't feel slighted this time either. Ladies, I suggest you have a few Valium on hand for your soon-to-be tattered nerves. Open your barf bags and resign yourself to be sick, because Beyond Killer Fiction is about to drop you down an emotional elevator shaft into a stinking pit of hellish depravity unequaled in the annals of modern horror literature.
The ex-cop and serial killer was doing 2 life sentences for the murder of 2 teenage girls, when he himself was murdered in 1995. Sondra London first published a collection of these stories in 1989, under the imprimatur of Media Queen. Feral House published Killer Fiction in 1997. Now comes the new expanded collection, that also includes the stories Schaefer wrote in prison for Sondra London. 73 illustrations feature the drawings by Schaefer that were seized by police in 1973 and used as evidence to convict him of murder. Also included are impressionistic sketches of Schaefer by Sondra London, and facsimiles of his handwritten statements.
Stark stories, as fascinating as a fatal traffic accident and twice as bloody. GJ Schaefer rips away the benign mask of the Florida correction system and exposes the executioner's mask beneath. Spawned in the same cesspool of state corruption that gave birth to Don Pierce's Cool Hand Luke, GJ Schaefer takes the reader one giant step beyond, into the depravity of prison life in Florida today. Prison politics, sexual slavery, young boys beaten, robbed and anally raped. Screams. GJ Schaefer takes you behind the super-secret gates to the state death house where condemned men and women are brutally degraded. Penis time, anus packing, where sobbing young women are dragged to their death wearing a diaper. Writing as sharp as the guillotine's blade, delivered with the sting of a slave master's whip.
True crime author Michael Newton said, "Killer fiction grabs the reader in a stranglehold and never lets go. Smacks of a collaboration between Elmore Leonard and Jack the Ripper. An extended walk on the dark side with no holds barred. Required reading for students of serial murder." The Miami Herald said, "Lurid accounts of sex with cheap women followed by gruesome murder." True Detective said, "Depraved fantasizing from a horrendously vivid and morbid imagination." Inside Detective said, "Lurid and violent sex stories." Time magazine said, "Incredible. Real or imagined acts of murder, necrophilia, dismemberment and burial." Robert Ressler said, "Right on target to what happens in serial homicides," while State's Attorney Rodney Smith called the stories personally offensive.
Torture for the sake of torture did not interest me. It was, in those days, important for me to feel good about what I was doing. Whores were agents of evil, and as a good Catholic young man I had no difficulty with what one might consider philosophical gray areas. There was good and evil, a well-defined line ran between the two. Whores were evil, whores were to be killed.
State's Attorney Robert Stone said, "He's a madman, he's dangerous. If he gets out it's like signing people's death warrants." Florida Department of Corrections said, "Graphic presentation of sexual behavior and graphic violence in violation of state law." The Florida Bar Association said, "Inappropriate in the hands of a prisoner." Fact Sheet 5 said, "The most revolting book I've reviewed."
I've had absolutely genuine experiences with evil. I'll tell you an absolutely confidential story here. There were some young women who were about to die. They were already naked for the slaughter. Frightened out of their wits, naturally. I fed on their fear. Rather, the evil entity did. And as I walked over to this one to kill her, she said to me, "Jesus loves you, and so do I." It was as if a sheet of glass came down between us. She was as close to dying as 5 seconds. And everything stopped. Frozen frame. I recall taking several steps back. I recall it absolutely. Then another woman. She was about to be killed too. She said, "Nobody could love him. Not even God could love him."
Serial killer John Wayne Gacy said, "Schaefer's writing is good. It's graphic and keeps the reader wanting more. Even in fiction, it has to be done that way. You can tell he has done his research, but it almost reads like he has tried it all too. I can see how they used it against him. I know sometimes being honest is not always the best policy, as you can see how it worked against Schaefer." Lawrence Pliers Bittaker said, "Schaefer has a gift for creating a readable story. His subjects are predominantly morbid or bizarre. Whether that relates to his own interests, or he merely seeks to shock and offend, is unknown. Such alleged fictional stories seem knowledgeable on the subject of murder, but they also indicate some exaggeration. Whether his expressions are based on experience or simply fantasy, or a combination of both, only he knows for sure."
Ladies, pop your Valium now. Gentlemen, take a good solid wallop of strong spirits. I speculate that you shall require a bit of fortification, some artificial courage, to help you through the pages of this opus. Lock your doors, turn up the lights, have your barf bag close at hand, and as you wade through the blood, body fluids and excrements, keep in mind that this work was written by a man who was once publicly accused of the ghoulish murders of 34 young women on the front page of a major Florida newspaper. This product is my pleasure and my revenge. It is my sincere hope that what you read between the covers of this book will cause you to vomit. May you never forget the messages contained herein. The next time you find yourself reveling in films extolling sexual violence and the degradation of women. Now, rabid reader, turn the page and embark on your journey into unmitigated horror and depravity that transcends imagination. And be damned. GJ Schaefer, 039506, January 15, 1991.
Serial killer Danny Rolling said, "This guy has got real problems, doesn't he? Schaefer's twisted and delusioned writings left a bitter taste in my mouth. He boasts he is the greatest killer of women this century. How could anyone blatantly brag about such a thing? I loved killing whores," he says. What an awful self-professed statement. I can write better than Schaefer, period. The Catch Me Killer, William Hiron said, "Schaefer can write, but I'm afraid he's misusing his talent. I can see what he's trying to do. Saturate the public with kinky, fictionalized murder accounts to offset the writings that were used to convict him. But what Schaefer might be trying to do, if I'm correct, is very dangerous. A person could read one of his stories and come away with the idea that he is a bad person, instead of an entertainer. Researchers who might peruse his work as a window to the criminal mind could be put off by his claim that it was all fiction.